to The Truth in This Art, your source for conversations that matter. Conversations at the intersection of arts, culture, and community. I am your host, Rob Lee. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, we're running it back. Well, sorta. You may recall previously I had the privilege of interviewing Amy Cavanaugh from Maryland Art Place, and I'm welcoming my next guest, and we're here actually at Maryland Art Place. My next guest is a mixed media artist whose work examines the patriarchy, gender, and the invisibility of female labor. She is also the exhibition and program director at Maryland Art Place, MAP, where she oversees MAP's exhibitions and programming. Please welcome Caitlin Gill. Welcome to the podcast.
So I am the exhibitions director for Maryland Art Place. I've been here for about 6 years, and I'm also the MSAC Arts Directory manager. So I manage all the directory content for the state of Maryland. That's a contractor position and role here. And then on top of that, I'm an interdisciplinary artist. I still consider myself emergent. And then in addition to that, I also run an all-female arts collective called the Gossip Girl Collective. And we just opened a gallery on the 3rd floor here at MAP, so we're a tenant of MAP, called XOXO Gallery.
Nice. And we're going to dive back into that a bit more.
Oh, good.
So thank you for teasing it a little bit. So at this very moment, we're recording this as it was starting to snow when I came here.
I know, it was beautiful.
So what keeps you busy at this very moment? What's keeping you busy? You mentioned many things there, but what's that one that's just like, all right, this is taking 85% of the time that I have?
Oh, God. Well, MAP has entered into a strategic planning time. So we kind of are slower here. We're a bit quieter. We're getting our elevator modernized, so which is perfect timing because we can use the gallery for all of that overflow storage of all the elevator parts. I'm sure you saw when you came in. So because of that, I've had an opportunity to kind of focus on my art practice a little bit more, and I have an upcoming exhibition at Towson. So I'm working on building frames, and I just produced like 15 small sculptures over the course of like a week. So that's been brutal, yeah. So I would say that, and then the gallery, or the collective, has a show coming up in Philly, so I'm producing work for that, and then I also have a show in Mexico City, and I'm only participating, including, 1 or 2 works, and then I have another show at the Baltimore Art Group in February.
Wow.
Yeah, so art.
So art is arting right now.
Yeah, art is popping off, yeah.
So what is the fuel? And it seems like it seems like it might be a similar sort of question as to the drive we'll have you around it, around like what drives you, what motivates you right now. Like some people may say, and with the themes of what this season's about, as I was touching on before we got started, I'm curious about sort of attrition and folks like getting deeper into it and kind of improving upon previous interviews. And you're in that technical space of, I interviewed Amy before from MAP, but interviewing you now, and we're here at MAP. So it's almost a full circle thing. But the thing that kind of motivates and drives what this series of interviews for this year is about is catching up with folks, seeing where they're at within their careers. So what is driving you as far as maybe thematically what's coming up in the work that you're working on, like you said, sculptures and so on?
So a lot of my work is about the female experience, or my experience as a female. So it can be kind of heavily nuanced, if I'm being honest. Some of it, the Roadkill series, which will be at Towson, is about being an empath, and essentially it's called the Runneth Over series, because my cup runneth over is kind of the joke what's the word, pun that I'm using in that work. So it's a bunch of roadkill, and essentially it's empathy will kill you, because it's kill yourself, you're killing with kindness, right? You're just constantly giving so much of yourself to other people, to the point where it's you're not, in my situation, I'm not meeting my basic needs, but I'm helping my friends move or something to that effect. I do think kindness is a pyramid scheme. So it's
good. That's good.
So I'm kind of tackling that. And a lot of the female identity is driven, is about domestic labor and emotional labor, and also, being that person, the compassionate, caregiving, right, our worth is kind of entangled in all of that, or enmeshed in all of that. So that's what my work kind of unpacks. The Chicken series, for example, which is hybrid female chicken women is more about the male gaze and the boys will be boys mentality, and how like, okay, yes, they are nudes, but they have chicken appendages, like to include their heads. So it's like, if you can't control yourself because a woman's dressed inappropriately, or she for whatever reason is undressed, then can you control yourself if it had a chicken head, right? Like it's kind of like addressing those harder questions, but with humor. That's kind of my whole vibe. So yeah, I think it just, in my own nuanced way, I'm kind of just dealing with these like internal dialogues and challenging those narratives, or even just creating space to have the conversation either with the audience or with myself. My new work, so the work for Towson is about natural history based. So the work is included is the Run It Over series, but also I do some sculptures. So like this is some mushroom sculptures that I do. Some of my work is just playful. It's like an opportunity for me to like palette cleanse, because I do think my work is pretty politically charged and emotionally charged. So I need that like creativity, just like safe space to just kind of make things that I enjoy making, so I can go back to doing more labor intensive, and by labor intensive I mean like emotionally labor intensive work. So that's that. Other things that I'm working on, ideally, I'd like to move into like a 3D direction and create chicken women that are life size. I applied for Rubies. If they hear this, like, give me the money, but just kidding. So I want to make like life size sculptures of those pieces. I'm really interested in sculpture. My background's in painting, but I'd love to like get more 3D work in my inventory. So ideally moving in that direction.
Yeah, I think, there's a few things, and thank you.
Yeah.
There's a few things I want to touch on. One, the humor piece. Yeah. I think that's funny. Humor is funny. So as a person that's, my partner is an empath, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I do too many puns, right? Everything is a bit with me that she's like, are you done?
Yeah.
You have more. I'm sure you have more. And it popped up in one of her, this idea of a pun and sort of turn of phrase popped up in her creative practice. Like, she's doing a comic, she's writing one, and it's about podcasters that are cats.
Oh my God, can I come?
I'll send you the link to it.
Yeah, does she need cats to act in it? Because I have 2 torties that are ready and able.
We just got rid of a tortie. Well, we not got rid of. It just gave it to one of our relatives.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Here you go. And,
the tortitude is real.
She's a character in the comic, so yes. So, but the concept of herding cats is what the podcast is around. It's like, it's, podcasters trying to come together on an idea. It's like herding cats, and just the fact that the podcast is a cats, it's a pun that just keeps on delivering. And because I've been in that sort of space for like 16 years, I'm like, yeah, we should have the podcasts, if you will, do a ad for like a dog company.
Oh my God, I'm dead.
it's stuff like
I'm
that.
obsessed.
But it's her that drives. I just throw out just ideas because, subject matter expert, I suppose, but sort of someone who's an empath. So having the seeing me see what I engage in and doing this sort of stuff, like being able to turn it on and just be dead afterwards, it's a big dump emotionally and energy-wise.
100%.
So, her seeing that and being able to observe it and as an empath feel that, right? Yeah. It's almost like, you're really speaking the truth here in this, goofy comic about cats. The other thing that I thought was kind of interesting, the palette cleanser you were touching on, as far as like having work that's like heavy and work that is definitely charged in a specific direction and touching on topics and themes that are, like, look, this is what I feel. This is what I've experienced. People want a sanitized, cleaned version of it. And I find that in doing this podcast, I was asked to share the story, right? Yeah. On multiple occasions. Oh, take all the stuff out about this person, this person, this person. I'm like, so clean up the story. For who? Yeah. Is it not the story? And I'll say, in doing well over 800 episodes at this point.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, thank you. Sometimes I have to, still within the practice, do something that's just kind of goofy and fun. Yeah. So I might have a conversation with someone, and I try to make this as open as possible. It's not like, hey, only answer these questions. It's like, this is a guide more than anything else. But I do another podcast outside of it just so I feel like, hey, I'm doing something funny that's low energy but still good. I do a movie review podcast in addition to doing this. So I noticed at a point when I was really heavy in it, doing like 6-7 interviews in a day sometimes, I'm like, yeah, I just want to watch a movie and then talk with my friends about this movie on a podcast. And that was my palate cleanser for that. So I think it's important to have those.
Yeah, me too. I think it keeps the creativity flowing in a way that, like, I think we were talking about it. I had a lunch with Sonzi earlier, and I was like, people think that making art is fun, and it is. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to like say I don't enjoy creating, but it's also really stressful, and it becomes, when you become an artist, it becomes your job. It's not like you're creating because you're just like, I have an idea, I'm gonna go in the studio and I'm gonna like fully realize this idea, it's gonna be perfect, and I'm gonna have another stroke of genius in 3 to 6 weeks. Like, it's like, no, I have to like sit down, you know, and produce, and I have to produce a lot and have to do it under a tight deadline in my spare time, which I'm sure you've gathered I don't have much of. And then, you know, also too, like, frame it, ship it, apply for opportunities, pay all the submission fees to apply for the opportunities, field all the rejection letters. Then, like, when you get accepted, like, transport it, you know, install it on occasion. It's just like, it's a lot of work, and it's a labor of love. Like, everything I do is a labor of love. Sure. But I think speaking about how it is a practice for a reason, and that's because it's like, it's not just a creative process after a certain point. It becomes like almost a disciplined, I don't want to say chore because that's not the right word, but task management. It's just like exhausting at times. I love it. Whoever is listening, I love making art, but you know, it's a lot of work. Similar to, I'm sure you can relate, like doing podcasts, it's like you love doing it, but of course it's exhausting. I mean,
it can be. Yeah.
It can be exhausting.
Yeah, when you're, you know, this is my thing. This is the thing I have. I'm pointing at my mouth as I say this.
Yeah.
But when it's that issue where it's just like, you were touching on earlier, you have like a hand issue.
Yeah, I'd stab myself in my hand with my pocket knife, and I cut my tendon and nerve. Isn't that exciting? Yeah, pocket knife literacy, apparently I have to take it off my resume. Oh, it's a bummer.
I'm waiting for the series of, this is my pocket knife series. It's like, I just did it with the hand with the injury.
Oh my God, I should. I've been thinking a lot about my hands because like I use them so much in my practice, and like how integral they are. But also too, like, you know, I do a lot of body parts, like either animal or other. It would be interesting to kind of see how that all comes out later in my work. Sure. Yeah.
So talk about sort of the disciplines or the types of techniques you're working in. I see printmaking, I see fiber art, you touched on working 3D, right?
Yeah.
And moving towards that direction. So why, or how did you arrive at like, this is of interest to execute here, and what is pulling you towards sort of 3D now?
That's a great question. So I do think I am like very much so an interdisciplinary artist. I kind of get bored with like one material. I just don't feel like it like achieves everything that I want it to. And I'm really interested in texture. And I feel like as a result, like collage was kind of a natural progression for me. I still consider all my work, most of it, paintings, unless it's 3D, because I feel like I paint with paper, or I paint with fabric, or like whatever material I'm using. I feel like I apply it in a painterly way. Sure. So I don't know how it really progressed. I wish I had like, you know, the timeline in my head, but it was just like, it just evolved. Like it went from kind of the backgrounds were this hodgepodge of things, and then the focal point was typically like a really well-rendered painting. And then I went to a residency, Chad North, up in the Hudson Valley, and Brigitte was like, what if you just did white backgrounds? And I remember just shrugging off. I was like, absolutely not. Like, do you not understand my work? You know, like so ego driven. And I got back, and then like, you know, of course I think it's my idea, right? Like I'm like, I'm gonna do a white background. I'm such a brat.
It just popped in my head one day.
It just popped in my head. I'm such a genius, low key. Anyway, so I ended up doing it, and she commented on my work because it got into a show in New York, and she commented on the post, and she was like, and I was like, thanks for the white background tip, girl, homie.
It's like, I'll take that credit. Thanks.
Great. And then on the label, it's like little like line item, like Brigitte's idea. No, I mean, yeah, it just happens. I think feedback is always important, even if we're not ready for it. Like, I think that's the lesson, right? Like, it's like she had a great idea, I just wasn't ready to hear it. But when I did, it transformed my work entirely.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So is there a pull right now, or drive right now? And I ask this because I'm as I was, kind of touching on a little bit earlier, but I didn't go too far into it. I've heard on and on from folks, even in doing the teaching thing in the last year, that, hey, you should engage in video. And I'm like, video as a whole, and I'm thinking all the reasons why not, right? And also kind of being I'm an audio first guy. That is my lane. I don't have the face for video. So, audio is my lane, right? So in thinking about it, sort of what the next stage and being more oriented around media versus purely audio, I'm like, okay, cool, let's at least explore that a bit. But I've heard it for years beforehand, kind of as you were touching on, I'm like, I don't know if that was the time I should have heard it. Or when folks give me sort of I like when I hear something I've thought, but I've never said it out loud.
Yes, oh my God.
I had a guest, I had Ducky Dynamo on, and she was just like, you're just kind of doing an Anthony Bourdain thing. But with like artists and as like a black nerd. I was like, you said it, you said the thing.
That's
I've been
facts,
thinking for years.
I love Anthony Bourdain.
So as far as the move towards 3D, was there a moment there, or just something that was just like, I want to explore this, that you're looking at it from that perspective?
I mean, I think it's so hard to articulate, right? Because it's like, it's all in your head, and I've never had to speak it to anyone, like why or how, like why I'm interested in 3D. But I think my work is very relief based, and I think I'm always looking for more layers and more layers and more layers. And at some point, like, hanging becomes an issue, or shipping becomes an issue, because like I use pressed flowers and things like that. Sure. And I think sculpture has been like a natural progression because it has the opportunity to use so many different types of media. Like I'm interested in plaster and silicone, and I'm interested in clay, and and I can still work with paper and fiber in a sculptural capacity. So I think it's just like, I feel limited, maybe is the right word, on 2D, and I feel like that. I almost feel like these paintings have taken on to me like more of a sketching quality, where I feel like they're just ideas that need to be articulated in 3D. And because I've never done sculpture, and I'm not necessarily nervous, but maybe insecure is the right word at first to kind of move in that direction. I think we all have imposter syndrome to some degree. So I think it's been like holding me back a bit, like taking that leap into fully going like into sculpture. But I'm kind of using this as like my New Year's resolution, but don't hold me to it, because like in a year, if you're like, Caitlin, how did it go? And I'm just like, what? I didn't do it, But ideally,
look, I'm an accountability partner for a few folks. I'm like, just text message comes over. So you said it in this episode at this minute.
Maybe I need that. I'm in a residency online, and it's supposed to hold me accountable, but I end up just starting projects and not finishing it because I'm just like, I don't know. So maybe this is the perfect opportunity to be held accountable. But
just play this one audio clip, just send it to you once a week.
In my sleep. Just fall asleep to it.
It's the worst version of ASMR.
Oh my God.
It's like, your goals.
No, not your goals while you fall. God, that is like anxiety inducing. 100%. I'm here for it though. I'm a total self-sabotager. Like,
But I think in going back through and revisiting, some of these interviews, because I make it a point to try not to ask the same question, or if I'm asking the same question, there's an intent to it. Like, let's say if it's something that's a little like juicy, and they may have had a take, the guest may have had a take, let's say 5 years ago, and now it's like, I have a completely different definition of it now. So when we eventually get back to you coming back on this podcast, this is technically your first time.
Yeah, I know, I'm excited.
So I got to ask you this. What is your relationship with the word artist?
Isn't everyone's complicated? Does anybody answer that? And they're like, I feel like it totally encapsulates my identity. It's like, I don't know. I feel like when you're not producing, everyone's just like freaking out, like you are. Like every artist I know, when they're not producing, is freaking out. So I feel like it's like, I think it took me a long time to kind of heal my relationship with my work. I took a 10-year break. Like I didn't paint for 10 years. Oh, wow. I was in an abusive marriage, and I feel like that just like sucked my soul like out of me. And I feel like my work was a way for me to process. It's like kind of therapeutic. So, and I don't think I was processing much of anything during that time, but I hit the ground running, and I also got divorced low-key. So like, and I've produced a lot of work since then. But during that 10-year gap, would I have identified as an artist? Probably not. And I think I do identify as an artist, but I almost feel like it's like I feel like I'm more of an exhibitions director first, artist second, than artist first, exhibition director second. And I reconciling that in perpetuity has been hard, because it's like you're creating opportunities or you're creating art, and it's like hard to toggle those two tasks. But yeah, I mean, I love being creative. I think it's necessary for me to produce work because it's, again, a way for me to process a lot of things. And if I'm not making, then my mental health tends to be lower. So it's almost like hard because I feel like artist sounds so like it's a choice. And I don't know if it was a choice for me. I feel like it's like, it was never an option, you know, not to make work.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to these different books. Like I would listen to the Austin Kleon audio books, The Death of the Artist, William Deresiewicz. That's always been a part of it over this 5 years. And just kind of exploring things and thinking about, you know, what I do. And I find that, you know, the relationship is always kind of odd with that terminology and sort of the identification with it. Kind of similar to like chefs at times. You have some people cook really well. It's like, I don't use the term chef.
Yeah.
And I find that when I was very young, I wanted to be a comic book artist. That's what I wanted to do.
That's so cool.
And I had to kind of reconcile with that not happening. You know, it was just, and being good with it, right?
It can still happen.
Well, I approached it in a different way. And doing this, I went into writing a comic and hiring artists to just draw it. So I'm still able to satisfy that sort of goal. So I think what I'm kind of touching on is in the 35 plus years since this initial inclination to draw cartoon characters and try to draw X-Men, that's what I was doing as a kid, I've been able to dabble with different things creatively that caught my interest. So from, you know, so it wasn't a choice, I suppose, or it was always just there, from doing illustration, and it's like that served its sort of point, right? And thinking that that's the direction I was going to go. And then moving into, I'm going to write for a bit, I'm going to do poetry. And so football body type, but I'm writing poetry. It's like, I'm your bard. And it's like, what are you going to, like, put together an iambic pentameter or something? What are you going to do? Tackle. And also writing raps. There is several mixtapes that I did in high school. Oh God,
you have to put the one at the end of this. Promise me.
I
Please.
do not have them anymore. Oh. They're at my mom's house. I will look for them.
Okay.
Specifically for you, I will find them. Okay. And then, but I think, and I've touched on this before in this pod, that, you know, playing with audio, you know, as far as figuring it out, just exploring, finding a little handy recorder, finding a dubbing machine and doing rhymes on there. I started just grabbing a microphone and I would ask my classmates in kind of interview style with the mic. That was the beginning of doing podcasting.
That's so cool.
And I could see it. I could see those sort of threads there. So it was like, it's storytelling throughout, whether it be, hey, you know, what is this character doing in this comic, to what is my classmate doing, to what is this talented artist doing.
That's really cool.
Yeah, thank you. That's the trajectory. I'm telling that story now and make it seem like it's well composed.
No, I mean, it's never linear, right? Like normalize it. I feel like time isn't linear. Like life isn't linear. We just like project that onto life, but it doesn't track. It just doesn't. It's not. It's like a bunch of different opportunities that kind of coalesce, and then like, so, you know, something you make a decision. Red pill or blue pill.
I was going to say something about a flat circle. I don't know.
Not a flat earther. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
I am. I'm offended. No, I'm just kidding.
I was like, what are we doing? I mean, there's a map at the day job. I'm like, that's wild.
Prove it.
That's like, I need to see it. So I want to talk about MAP a bit, and I want to talk about Gossip Girl Collective. So let's talk about MAP. And also the Maryland State Arts Council Arts Directory. So for listeners who aren't familiar, could you share what MAP is and what it's doing for local art community, and how your roles contribute to sort of supporting local arts community?
Sure. So Maryland Art Place is a 501c3 nonprofit. We're about 43 years old. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure. It's in Aquarius. We did its chart. You're welcome.
That's great.
I know.
That's great. Tis the season.
We did it. We did its entire astrological chart. We're very compatible.
This is great.
I'll have to share with you. Anyway, so we do between like 5 and 7 major exhibitions a year. Ideally, some of you out there are familiar with us, but if you're not, we do 2 benefits. One is under 500, which we recently rebranded to under 2,500 to kind of just create that cost of living, you know, establish that like prices are continuing to increase. Yeah. So like, you know, 50% of the proceeds go towards MAP's annual operating budget, but 50% of $500 is just like not cutting the mustard. So we ended up upping it. And then we do Out of Order, which is our annual auction. It's a silent auction benefit, which comes up in April. This year's theme is Barbarella.
Nice.
I'm pumped. I don't know if you know Barbarella, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank God. I told somebody that today, and they were like, "Who's that?" And I was like, "Stop it."
For the folks that don't know, hit them.
And it's like I'm saying, it's like I was like, she's a queer icon, and then they were like, "She's queer," and I was like, "No, that's not the point."
That's not the point.
That's not how you become a queer icon. we just go around asserting it. Anywho, so yeah, and then we do Youngblood, which is our MFA retrospective exhibition. So me and Amy go around, we like review all of the thesis exhibitions in the state, and then we curate kind of an up and coming sampling of like the work of MFA graduates of that year. So 2025 will be this Youngblood, and then everything else. We used to do the MSAC Triennial. We are, I believe, bringing that back. There'll be a couple other shows, but it just is kind of contingent on either like we might have an independent curator. Zoe Charlton has a solo exhibition here, so we do about a solo exhibition every 2 years, I would say. And then outside of that, we own our building, so we also operate a bar and basement cabaret venue. So that will hopefully be programmed in the spring of 2025.
Oh yeah.
And then the MSAC directory, anyone can become a directory artist. All you have to do is apply. It's super simple, and you can upload as many as 5 to 10 images and PDFs, videos, any subject matter, any medium, and it's free. And you can use it as your website if you'd like. If you can't afford a domain or something of that nature, or just don't want to make that leap or commitment to having your own website, yeah, it's pretty sick. I would strongly encourage any Maryland resident artist to create a directory profile.
I believe I have one on there.
Oh,
so
I'm gonna go find it after this.
It's got an outdated picture. I need to update it.
Okay,
the face is smaller.
Mine, I have to update mine too. We can do it together. We can do it after this podcast.
It'd be great. It's just like, you have more hair in this picture. I had that happen in an interview. Someone was like, "How old are you?" I was like, "This age." It's like, your hairline says that you're a little older. I was like, can we be friends in this podcast?
That's so out of pocket. I can't believe people say that to you.
That's going to be the spinoff. It's going to be Patreon only, the out of pocket episodes.
I'm done.
Here's some of the things I listen to.
You should do, so we did this solo show for Bonnie Shoup, who recently passed away, David Etlin's wife, and she had this book where she followed strangers around and just wrote down one quote. Like, just literally every day would follow people around and just like write whatever they said,
nice.
Like one sentence, and completely like no context or anything. And I read it, it was amazing. And I feel like this is what we're moving towards. You need to like just everything that random out-of-pocket things that people share with you, you just have to like keep track of it.
I might just put down where it was, because I have a pretty good memory when it comes to that, especially when there's a degree of besmirchment. Mm-hmm. It's like, what'd you say to me? Hold on, file that away. File that away.
Like literally, like why would anybody say that? You're a safe space.
And then I have to keep an inventory. I was like, what did I say? I was like, oh, okay.
That's where your comic is.
This is true. Because there's a podcast Rob, and then they converge. There's a real life Rob and a podcast Rob. They intersect.
I get that, yeah.
But there's some times where it's just like, man, these MFers be wildin'.
I get it, yeah. There's like customer service Caitlin, and then there's like Caitlin that's just like been pushed one email too many.
I think I follow both, actually.
If you follow both my Instagram accounts, you're in for a wild ride.
It's a very interesting tale.
I was talking to somebody and I was like, do I look like I'm enjoying my life, or do I look like I need to like be institutionalized? Like, I toe the line on my feed, and I acknowledge that. That's why it's private. Only a select few get admission.
We have a mutual friend. Zoe and I are friends.
Yeah, I know. Zoe's normally in my shenanigans, but now she's like locked down in her new relationship, so.
So, in addition to, MAP, Maryland State Arts Council, and all, you founded, right? Gossip Girl Collective?
Yes, I founded it, yeah.
So what led to it? Well, and how does it align with your vision, as an artist and as a leader in the arts community?
Yeah, I mean, it started off innocent enough. Like, it blew up. I think there's just like a general need within the community for like safe spaces where like there's resource sharing and just like a general sense of community and support. It started off with like 5 to 7 members, core members, and then we eventually like we did a new member invite where we like invited people and opened it up, and we got a lot of engagement through that. And then it's just been like a word of mouth thing where people are like, I met this person, can you add them to the email list? And we just do. It's not really like we're out seeking anyone. They kind of find us, and it's a really fluid collective. Anyone can come and go at their leisure. Essentially with the collective, which is different than the gallery. So the gallery's umbrellaed under the collective, but the gallery was formed by 12 members who have agreed to take on a financial commitment of managing the space, whereas the Gossip Girl Collective, there's no membership fee or anything, and there's really no commitment. We do exhibitions together, so we have one up right now called Brumation at School 33, which I would, if you haven't seen it, or if the viewership hasn't seen it, I would encourage them to check it out, depending on when this drops. But and it's just like, we'll go and as a group apply for shows and funding and things of that nature, but the XOXO Gallery is strictly a curatorial initiative. So we curate shows. Each member gets a 6-week exhibition out of the 12. Each member gets 6 weeks, and they can curate whatever they want. Nice. So right now, Grit is on view, curated by Grace Doyle. Prior to that, it was Frosh Week, which was curated by Anne Margaret. Upcoming, we have an Automat collective takeover. We're doing a gallery swap, so our work is going to Philly and their work is coming here. Nice. And we are open to having, like, the member can hire a curator or give their space up to a curator. They can jury their own shows. They can invite a jury to jury their shows. And it's like whatever you want to do for the 6 weeks, you can. The only like real limitation is that we don't allow solo exhibitions outside of 2 years. Like every 2 years you can do a solo show in the space, but we can't just keep showing our work over and over, because that's not the point of the space.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And I like the openness there. Like I've been riding this sort of idea of, I think the best situations happen, or a lot of the good situations, I don't know if they're always the best, but a lot of the good situations happen when folks are allowed to just cook. Yeah. It's just like, if you guys want to bring a curator, and you got it, here's the space for this number of weeks, and you're able to work within these parameters, but it's not a lot that's there, so that's a really cool opportunity.
Yeah, and we pay our rent, and then we put in like a fee that you get back as a stipend for your exhibition. Nice. So like all the money returns to the member. It's like, really, we're just like paying to kind of create opportunity in Baltimore. That's the goal.
So I got 2 more real questions, and then we get to these rapid fire questions, which I'm sure you forgot, because I like to lull people to sleep. Hey, we're having fun.
I feel so safe, and
and then it's like,
no, you're not. It's perfect. I thrive in that environment.
So how do you? I was touching on this a little bit as it relates to podcasting, and I know it relates to artists, and I know that social media drives a lot of this, but sort of we talk about like the market and the different trends that happen. What is your relationship with sort of the market and being in a space where you're an artist, you're also an arts advocate, an arts resource, arts community like leader? What is your relationship with it? Because we always hear about the market. It's like, oh, people aren't buying this, or no one's making this, or people are switching their work around. I remember one that was just a damning situation where I had a young artist who was in the filmmaking world, and he had a really bad experience. It was like, I'm done with this, got rid of his camera. And just like, got rid of his video camera. It's like, I'm just going to do photography now as a direct response to no one cares about my work, so I'm shifting. And I was just like, you're 22. Yeah. I don't have a relationship with the market. Nobody buys my work. I mean, I've had a couple buyers, but that was like when I first started, and I feel like my work was a little bit more palatable. And I don't want to use the word decorative, but I think it could hang in your living room, know? No one's buying roadkill and chicken nudes women. They're just not, and that's fine. I don't care. Not for nothing. Like, I make work that I want to make, and I don't really let the market dictate what I want to make. I'm not sales motivated, which is like antithetical to the entire thing, because like you need money to make the work. It's expensive, like not for nothing. So I struggle with it. Like, I did an art fair in New York. I paid like $1,500 for a booth fee. I paid like $350 to $500 for an Airbnb, and like, that's not including traveling there and making the work, and I sold nothing. And then I'm in this residency, and that's where my work is going, is to Mexico City for another art fair, and it's like I fully anticipate that I will not sell anything.
And I guess I just made my peace with it. I just don't really care. Is that terrible? Maybe I sound like too cool for school. Like,
No.
that capitalist agenda is not for me, you know?
No, but I think that's a good point. Like, you know, I had this one situation where I was able to travel a lot of times, and I was touching on it before we got started, of like, you have a vision as to what you want to do, but, you know, there's a relationship with capitalism there, right? And, you know, what my plans were for this year involved travel and involved going to other places. And what I wanted to do was still using this sort of idea of running it back, but for folks in these other cities, I want to interview one person and have them serve as a producer. It's like, who are 3 people I should interview while I'm here in town that are new artists and so on. So they get a producer's credit, all of this different stuff, and really being of the community and broadening and connecting that community. And it's kind of to the back burner now, in part because of the whole funding conversation, right? But, you know, when I take on an opportunity that requires me to spend a little extra money, this is kind of an easier, really agile setup. I own my equipment. I, you know, have the talent, I suppose, and I have my home studio, right? So those are all things that I own. So anything outside of that, it's a cost on me. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I don't go into an opportunity that's like, oh, how many followers does this person have?
Thank God, because I wouldn't be here.
But I'm on the other side of it though, where folks are like, yeah, you know, just I only see 6,000 followers from you. It's like, all right,
ew,
cool, yeah. It's very weird because
it is weird.
I try not to make this it has influence, I suppose, but I don't position it as an influencer sort of medium. And it's something about that where everything is attached to a dollar amount. Your movie sucked if it didn't make $1 billion or what have you. And it's like, that's not what it is. It's a creative expression.
Doesn't matter. It's like, all that matters at the end of the day is like what you think.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. Like, if you think it's valuable, if you think it's successful, if you feel successful, that's it. Nothing else matters.
This is true.
Yeah. I stopped looking outwards, honestly. I just don't think it serves anyone to like be jonesing each other like grass is always greener. I don't want to participate in that. If I did, like, it's funny because I just had this meeting with my collective, and it's like, if we were all competing with each other, then we couldn't build community. That's not the way it works.
100%.
So like, you have to like check your ego at the door and support each other unconditionally, because like at the end of the day, that's what we're all looking for anyways, unconditional support.
Yeah.
So like, show it, you know, be what you be the change, like, but like I think in a fundamental but also small way. It's like, not all change is going to be this like huge impact, right? Not to be like a philosopher. I go to a lot of therapy, like so much. Like, I should plug my therapist because she's amazing. She's also a Sagittarius, and I feel like I wouldn't listen to anybody but a Sagittarius, so it's perfect.
Oh, Sagittarius.
Oh no, is that bad?
Both of my parents are Sagittarius.
Ooh. Well, I am not reproducing, so.
No, it may be.
Perfect. Yeah, well, you're an Aquarius. You probably thrived a little bit low-key in that environment. If you were like an earth sign, you'd be yeah. You probably would have like had to go to a lot of therapy if you don't already.
So, well, so as we wrap up here, and thank you for that. This is good. I got one sort of like last real question here, and it's more of the, and I think it aligns with what you were touching on there a moment ago of like, you're doing this for yourself. You're, you know, for someone that's young, so I feel like, you know, I've heard the whole Micah, I had some folks from Micah, they're like, man, going to your podcast is like a rite of passage. I was like, is it?
That's really cool.
It is. And I've had other folks that hit me up and say, yo, young people really listen to you. I was like, I don't know, don't glaze me up. But from your perspective and the background and the lanes and in your universe, what would be a piece of advice you would share with someone who wants to, like, you know, just kind of do work that feels really personal, that kind of toes that line and that isn't necessarily, you know, of the market, if you will, or who wants to work in community and not do the competition thing, but it's like, how do we all kind of, for lack of a better term, eat off of this and thrive off of this? What a piece of advice would you share? I
mean, I think ultimately, like, I have a little bit of like man behind the curtain energy, right? Because like I work in exhibitions and then I'm also an artist, so it's like I kind of know how the decisions get made, and ultimately it's so arbitrary. And I mean that, like, it's not that we're like, it's not about whether the work is good or bad. It's about what it's trending towards. Like, everyone's collective consciousness, what it's trending towards, and that's how you produce a show. So things that we love may not get selected because it's not trending along with everybody else. And it's like, that doesn't. it's not a reflection of whether or not you're skilled or not. Or whether or not your work is important or not, or like whatever you're trying to achieve with your work. It's just that simple. So don't take rejection personally, because it's not personal, and don't let it deter you, and don't let it inform. Don't try to figure out what they want and then produce it. Figure out what you want and make it, and the rest will happen. What is ever meant for you will happen for you. The doors will open. The right doors will open. And like, there's a market and a scene and an opportunity for everyone out there. That's the thing. There's so much opportunity. Like, it's not, you'll find your niche. It's just, it might not be, you know, you might have to go to New York to find it. Not like, don't leave, we want you to stay in Baltimore. But, you know, like, apply for exhibitions outside of the state. Apply for, like, or opportunities that aren't, you know, necessarily in it, you know, in an echo chamber. Because sure. Baltimore is guilty of it. I think every art scene is. It's like, it can kind of be a little redundant. I'm not Baltimore energy. Like, my work is not, I get chosen at nature centers, and I'm like, yep. That tracks. You know what I mean? Like, it's either university galleries or nature centers. Those are my two camps. I don't know why. I didn't make the rules, you know what I mean? But here we are. And it's like, you'll find it. It might be in Southern Maryland at some obscure nature center or arboretum, but like, I'm not mad at it. I love trees.
That's a great way to put it. It reminds me of this clip I saw from like Jim Carrey, and he was talking about sort of, he's being interviewed, and it's like, so you did A Living Color instead of SNL. Mm-hmm. And it's like, how did that come along? And it's definitely a coded question. Why'd you do this black SNL versus you're white guy? And he's like, you know, I'm kind of looking for any opportunity, door, window, crevice, crack. And then, you know, for a big chunk of the 90s, he was one of the biggest stars that was out there, and a 30-plus year career, and it was just like, you were the guy back in the day that had the rubber face that didn't do SNL. So it's very interesting, to your point around finding like your crack, your crevice, your way in. Yeah.
And you will, like, you won't, it's not like doors are never going to open. They're never going to open. You know, it's just like the door that you're banging your head against might not open, so just go to another door. I've gotten rejected from so many things, like, and, you know, I think it's easy to get caught up in, like, that person got it and I didn't. And it's like, it's because at the end of the day, it's all just aesthetic judgment. Like, these are people that have their own, we all have our own tastes. Like, there is artwork that I absolutely love. And then there's artwork that I'm like, I won't spend a lot of time on because it's just not my vibe. Yeah. But it's like, is that to say it's less successful? No, it's just, that's my preference. Yeah. We're all operating out of preference. So it's like, just because it's not somebody's cup of tea doesn't mean it's not somebody else's. And don't fixate on whose it's not, because that's not meant for you. Yeah. No, that's go find good. What's meant for you.
That's good. That's a good point to close on, actually. Yeah. That works. It's a kind of that needle drop. When we talk about this quote book that comes up, I'll have that one in there.
Yeah, good. I hope so.
All right. So I got three.
I'm so nervous.
I got three rapid fire questions. I'm always sweating. It's
normalize it.
It's the meat sweats. So here's the first one, and this is, however it comes to you is the right answer. However you want to answer is the right answer.
God. It's like a riddle.
Oh, it is.
Okay.
It is. It's a Chinese finger trap. It's great. So the first one, this relates to like art. I saw this quote earlier that really inspired it, and it's sort of like, are you going further as an artist because of obsession or because of talent?
I would say, can I do a weird third option?
Sure.
Necessity. Like, I swear it's like the only thing I do for me. It's like selfish. I think that's why I struggled getting back into it, because I said I was an empath earlier, and it's like it felt so selfish and ego driven to just produce and think everybody should look at it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But people that have children do that all the time, so like, I don't see the difference. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, I think I just have to. I can't imagine my life where I'm not. I just can't imagine a life where I'm not doing it. So I mean, maybe like with a touch of obsession, maybe, but.
I get obsessed, and I call it, and it's very Aquarius branded. I call it riding a wave. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just like, I'm just on it. It's like, wherever it takes me is where I'm going to go. You know, it's like, it was a period in which I wasn't saying no to a lot, and then starting off with that base level and then refining it as I go along. It's like polishing a stone or something. But yeah, at least starting off with, this is an opportunity. This should work. Let's see where it goes.
Yeah.
And someone's like, why are you doing so many? Because I like it.
Right.
And maybe that borders on obsession, you know? I don't know if I'm talented per se, but obsession, which sounds really really
I don't think
gosh.
I'm talented. I'll be honest. I really think, and that's not me trying to like fish for a compliment or anything. I genuinely don't think I am. I think I have made a system that works around my weaknesses really successfully.
It's good. It's a good way to put that.
Yeah.
All right. So the next two are, emotions. What do you usually do when you're bored?
I don't get bored. Are you kidding? Downtime is my worst nightmare. I'm terrified of being bored. My girlfriend is literally like, you can't sit, and I'm like, nope. I'm either sleeping or I'm working. That's it. Those are the two modes. And that's not like a flex. Like, honestly, don't live my life. Learn from me. Don't do it. It's honestly exhausting. But yeah, no.
I'm always on agitated, just energy. It's like, I got to work on this. Here's some questions here. Like when I was going back through earlier and fine toothing your questions, I was like, I got 4 other guests I can work on. Let me just write these. And it's like that Kermit meme where he's just like typing and throwing paper over his shoulder. And I'm supposed to be at work.
Heard, yeah. No, I don't. I think Amy also would agree, and she's never bored either. Like we're just built different. Like we're just workers. I think there are people that my mom's always like, "What? When you're on your deathbed, are you gonna wish you worked another day?" And I was like, probably. Like actually, like work fulfills me. I love working. I love it. So when I'm bored, I work.
I dig it.
Yeah.
So here's the last one. And because, it's sort of this cycle, right? Where we touched on a little bit here about the sort of, you have these wins of like, I made this work. I'm really excited for this piece. Or, damn, I got rejected from that. All right, cool. So I'm always curious on like some of the traits that folks have. Usually it's a question on how many hours sleep, would you eat less, things of that nature, self-care, right? But this is a question that's in that vein, but different. What makes you happy?
Oh my God, would it be so depressing if I said nothing? No, I'm just kidding. I probably am clinically depressed, but I don't know. My cats, I love my cats. I love animals, like absolutely. Like I grew up in the county. I'm an animal girly. Like I had a possum. Who has a possum? Nobody.
Tracks.
Right? Honestly, like you look at me and you're like, she's definitely had a pet possum. And I did. That's true.
I like how I was like, tracks.
Like, thank you. That's the best compliment I've ever received. I love animals. I think animals are like, I think that animals teach us how to love, like the right way. Like I don't think partners do. I don't think parents do, because they all fall a little short, right? But I feel like animals do. They show us how to love unconditionally, and I'm grateful for all of them. I have a lot of them, and I love them all. I have 10 lizards. I know, 10. I just changed all their terrariums last night. It took like 3 hours. 10. I have hissing cockroaches too. Because they were going to kill them. Because they were going to kill them. So I say, I'm not even vegan. What do I care? I give crickets to my geckos, but I'm like, not the roaches. Help me.
No, not the roaches. So
they're named after my parents. So I have 5, and their names are Deborah, Debbie, David, Dave, Deb.
I have a cat. That's all I have.
Oh, no.
And
you want a roach?
No, I've had enough. I grew up in the projects. What are you saying? They were there. We had a whole like.
You didn't put them in a tray.
It was like Joe's
Sweet
Apartment.
potatoes.
It was like Joe's Apartment, an MTV movie from the 90s.
God, I'm crying.
So that's it. We have the close on roaches.
Yeah, perfect. Actually, I have one request. I would like for you to take out every single time I said that's cool.
No, I want to actually have an echo behind it each time.
Please. I think I said it like 10 times, and I was like, can you come up with a different catchphrase, Caitlin? I can't.
No.
I cannot.
It's going to stay in. There is no edit here. But what I do want to do.
Just loop it.
Oh,
that's cool. That's cool. That's cool.
That's going to be part of the ASMR.
I hope so.
It's just like your goals, and that's cool. You wake up to that part. So there's 2 things I want to do as I close out here. One, I want to thank you for spending some time. We've been talking for like an hour.
I know.
And 2, I want to encourage you to kind of plug anything you want in these final moments, website, social media, any of the stuff that you want to cover. The floor is yours.
I don't know what I would plug. I would just say, like, check out the Gossip Girl Collective. We have a site. It's just gossipgirl.com. And then my Instagram handle is @CicadiLynn, Cicady.Lynn. You're welcome. Yes, it's my moniker. I go by Katie Lynn because I was like trying to keep my art separate from my job, but like that didn't work.
That's great. And there you have it, folks. I want to again thank Caitlin Gill for coming on to the podcast. And I'm Rob Lee, saying that there's art, culture, and community in and around your neck of the woods. You've just got to look for it.